Okay, let's get back into this quantum universe stuff here. This is review by way of review. This was what I was calling God's dwelling place, infinite dimensional, infinite degrees of freedom, and just about, I mean, and that's all there is. It's God. He's fine without us. He doesn't need to create our universe to fulfill himself. You got the Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. By the way, I didn't bring in the Trinity angle to this one. Now this is, you remember the first one. Now this is it. This is the creation model. God provided within himself an environment for us and the angels. Now the 24s, that's where the angels are dwelling. The 12 is where we're dwelling. We have 4 open dimensions. There'd be 8 in this model. And by the way, the 12 and 24 are based on biblical numbers. You have the 12 patriarchs. They sort of represented the earthly dwelling. You have the 24 elders representing more or less the heavenly dwelling, consisting of, I believe, the resurrected patriarchs and the apostles. But that's just getting a little mythological, I suppose. Not necessarily, okay? But what I'm going to do now is I wanted to talk about the quantum effects around these matrices, or whatever you want to call them, matrixi. Anyways, what happens at the boundaries? Okay, and I was saying this could represent the entirety of everything, including our universe, or the model also works just as well for omnipresent Planck length 10 to the minus 33 centimeters and less. And what I want to do is explore how particles behave in that at that matrix. Now, what I'm suggesting here, let me show you this again. These are dimensions. Okay, in this heavenly, where the angels are, realm. I believe I have the 12. There'd be 24 dimensions altogether. 8 open. Okay, so we're used to the 4 open dimensions, 3 space and one time. How can we imagine, for instance, what it would be like for an environment that has 8 open dimensions? Well, it's difficult to imagine. However, I think that the particle behavior at the quantum level can give us some clues about what actually would be normal if, say, we were able to penetrate as a macroscopic being and enter into that other realm where you have 8 open dimensions. Now, I believe in biblical model that this is what's going to take place with, say, the new bodies that were promised by God. We're going to be in a dimensionally new environment. Now, there's a lot of probably things I can explore in terms of what goes on in our world compared to what goes on in the 24-dimensional world of the angels. As far as what goes on in God's infinite dimensionality or his n-dimensionality, that's even more difficult. I was saying in the previous video, you cannot see God and live. So, trying to imagine that is way beyond my ability. Now, the Trinity thing here, you have the realm of the Father, the infinite, the realm of the Holy Spirit, and the realm of Jesus. And that's not to say that them being each part of the Godhead. I mean, they, I think, are free to roam where they wish. This is more of a not necessarily a restraint in terms of those persons of the Trinity. Let's think about some of the things the particle displays, the characteristics of, for instance, a loss of locality, a loss of an arrow of time in those dimensionalities. They find as the degrees of freedom perplex us for four-dimensional, where we are in the four dimensions. But at the border, I think what's going on is the particles are displaying what it would be like actually if they were in the greater dimensional realm. It's as if they were trapped in sort of an extra dimensional bubble. And I mean, this would explain those characteristics of what seems from our perspective, four dimensions, that they're actually losing locality. I think that in their own environment, these things are not actually happening. In the same way, if we think about a three-dimensional being and the advantages we have over the two-dimensional worlds. So we're seeing these phenomena that are real in their environment. And by the way, this brings up a point about trying, physicists will suggest that each superposition of the particle requires an entire universe. And I have a problem with that. First of all, it's biblically unsound, but let's suppose I was to swing my arm from the 90 degrees. If we were to calculate how many one-dimensional points I transect, we would come to an infinite amount very, very rapidly. We can calculate so that if that's the case, then how can I actually do this? Because it should take an infinite amount of time to trans so many infinite points. So likewise, you wouldn't need an entire universe to accommodate, because we know that's not, I can do it. I can transect all those points without an infinite amount of time. I think likewise we don't need an infinite or a universe for each particle wave state or superposition. I think that there's no need for an entire universe. You can look at this, and try to imagine the reality that would be taking place with the extra dimensions. And that's the reality. That's all the reality you would need. The Bible describes once in a while. It lets us peek into that other realm, and it sounds actually like people, things are very similar to what they are here in terms of the reality. It's just as real. Only, for instance, let's take entanglement. Okay, well, the entanglement and that dimensionality wouldn't be. The particles wouldn't be separate. There would actually be, for lack of a better word, visible contact between the particles, or it wouldn't. The connection would not be hidden as it is with entanglement when we're trying to view it from our four dimensions. So I guess my point here is just that if we think more scientifically about the Bible and less mysteriously, God becomes, for me, all the more awesome. If we just ignore God's handiwork, and how are we supposed to say, well, He's so awesome? I think that the more we explore and discover God's power and His handiwork, the more glory we give Him, and the greater our worship. So I encourage, once again, looking at the text in the scriptures in the Bible and using that for direction. Okay, what do we need to see in a cosmological model? And I'm anxious to get to Genesis 1-2, because there's going to be some more, I think, interesting things that likewise are going to bring God glory in this exploration. So thanks.